Right now, today, you are making mistakes with your baby, not because you're a bad parent, because nobody told you what's actually happening inside your baby's brain during the moments that seem the most ordinary. Some of these mistakes feel like love, some feel like common sense, and at least one of them, by the time we get to number 4, is going to make you think about something you probably did this morning in a completely different way. Mistake number 1, letting them cry it out in the first year. This one is everywhere, in books, in advice from relatives, in parenting forums with thousands of upvotes. Wait a few minutes, let them self-soothe, they need to learn independence. Here's what's actually happening when your baby cries and no one comes. Their body floods with cortisol, that's the stress hormone, and in the first 12 months of life, repeated cortisol spikes without a calming response from you don't teach independence. They alter the architecture of the developing brain. The regions responsible for emotional regulation, trust, and memory formation are directly shaped by those repeated moments of unanswered distress. Dr. Alan Score, one of the leading neuropsychologists in early development, has spent decades documenting this. His work shows that the back and forth between a caregiver and a baby in those early months is not just bonding. It is literally the process by which the brain gets wired. When you respond to the cry, your baby's nervous system learns something foundational. Help comes, the world is safe, I matter. That is the template their nervous system will run on for years. You're not spoiling them, you're building them. Mistake number 2, talking to them in a stressed voice. Not yelling, not arguing, just the voice you use when you're exhausted, overwhelmed, running on 3 hours of sleep and cold coffee. You pick them up and say, okay, I'm here. Completely normal words, but your voice is tight, there's an edge to it. Babies are tuned to vocal tone from before they're even born. By 3 months old, they can tell the difference between a calm voice and a stressed one with startling accuracy, and their nervous system responds to what it detects, not to the words. Researchers found that babies as young as 6 months showed measurable stress in their heart rate and cortisol levels when they overheard adult arguments. They were asleep, still reacting. Your voice is their emotional weather forecast, and a tense tone tells them one thing: the person I depend on for everything is not okay, which means I'm not safe. You don't have to perform happiness when you're falling apart, but one slow breath before you pick them up, just one, can shift your nervous system enough that the message your baby receives changes completely. Mistake number 3, sneaking out without saying goodbye. Someone told you it's easier, less crying, less drama, you're at the door, they're distracted with a toy, and you slip out. Here's what your baby actually experiences. One moment you're there, the next moment, without any warning, the person whose heartbeat they've known since before birth is simply gone. Their nervous system doesn't register that as easy, it registers it as alarming. And the lesson it stores is not that separations are manageable. The lesson is, the people I love can disappear without warning, which means I can never fully relax. I have to stay alert, I have to watch constantly. Research on attachment is consistent on this. Babies who experience visible, predictable goodbyes, even if there is crying at the goodbye, develop more secure attachment than babies whose caregivers disappear without warning. The crying at a real goodbye isn't distress building, it's distress releasing, and there is a real difference between those two things. Say goodbye every time, it matters more than the goodbye itself. Mistake number 4, saying you're fine when they are not. Your baby is upset, really upset. Maybe they're crying because you took something out of their hands, maybe they bumped into something, and your instinct, completely natural, completely loving, is to say, you're okay, you're fine. Stay with me here, because this one lands differently once you understand it. Babies don't have the neurological capacity to self-regulate their emotions. The part of the brain responsible for that doesn't fully develop until the mid-20s. What babies have instead is co-regulation. They borrow your regulated nervous system to calm their own. You're not just being nice, you're giving their nervous system a scaffold to come down from distress. But when you say you're fine to a baby who is not fine, their distress is fully activated and there's no co-regulation coming. The distress has nowhere to go. And over time, that repeated gap between what they feel and what they're told about it becomes one of the earliest roots of emotional dysregulation. You don't have to fix what they're feeling, you just have to see it. Look at them, name it, that's hard, I know it is, I see you. Those few words do more for your baby's developing emotional brain than any amount of shushing or redirecting ever will. Mistake number 5, too much stimulation. The bright gym, the flashing toys, the music and the TV in the background and the phone buzzing and people talking. You're doing all of it out of love, out of the deep desire to give your baby every advantage. But a newborn's nervous system can only process a tiny fraction of the sensory input that feels completely normal to an adult. What feels like a moderately busy room to you can feel catastrophically overwhelming to a brain that is still learning to process a single face. The signs are almost always misread. Babies who are overstimulated cry, they arch their back, they go glassy-eyed, they look away. And the natural response from a loving parent is to try more rocking, more talking, more movement, which makes it worse. An overstimulated baby needs the exact opposite of what instinct tells you to give them. Dim light, quiet stillness, a calm nervous system next to theirs. Less, not more. Mistake number 6, not following their gaze. This one sounds small, it is not. One of the most significant findings in infant psychology over the last 20 years is the power of what researchers call serve and return interactions. These are moments where your baby looks at something, points at something, makes a sound towards something. And you follow their lead, you look where they look, you name what they notice. Oh, you see that? That's the light, isn't it? That back and forth, even with a baby who can't respond in words, builds neural connections in the prefrontal cortex at a rate that simply doesn't happen without it. Language development, emotional intelligence, executive function. All of it grows through these tiny, ordinary, constant moments of shared attention. When those moments are missed, when the baby looks towards something and no one notices, the neural pathways that were ready to form simply don't. The window doesn't close forever, but it gets narrower. The Harvard Center on the Developing Child calls serve and return the single most important interaction in early development. Not toys, not classes, not programs, just you, noticing what your baby notices and responding to it. Mistake number 7, being physically present but emotionally somewhere else. This is the hardest one and the most important. You're in the room, you're feeding them, holding them, doing every physical act of caregiving. But inside, you're somewhere else, exhausted, grieving, anxious, overwhelmed in a way that has nothing to do with your baby and everything to do with being human in a hard season. Babies don't just receive your actions, they receive your emotional state. Research on early infancy shows that babies read their caregivers' emotional availability with extraordinary sensitivity, not through words, not through explanations, through the quality of presence in the room. This isn't about blame, not even close. The most powerful thing you can give your baby isn't a toy or a class or a perfectly timed response. It's your own nervous system, even partially regulated, even imperfectly calm. A parent who takes one breath before picking up their baby. A parent who asks for even a small amount of support. A parent who is honest about how hard this is and keeps showing up anyway. That parent changes something in the room. And the baby feels it. None of these 7 things make you a bad parent. The fact that you're watching this, that you're asking whether you might be missing something, that you care enough to want to understand what's actually happening inside your baby's world, that is not a small thing. That is the quality that changes outcomes. Your baby doesn't need perfection. The research is very clear on that. What they need is repair, the return after the miss, The I see you after the I was somewhere else. The comeback every time in whatever imperfect shape it takes. That's what secure attachment is built from. Not perfect moments, return ones.